Great. All right, so Piero, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Sure. So, hi everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm Pierre. They call me Piero. Um, I'm old, and excuse me. And so, first of all, I would like to congratulate you on deciding to actually go for a master's degree. I mean, I do remember when I've decided to have mine, had two of it, but it was pretty much the best move I've done in my career because what you study as an undergrad is great, but when you decide you want to master something and take it really to the workplace, this is the most amazing thing to do. So, congratulations and best of luck for the rest of your studies. Back to me, I'm Pierre. My undergraduate training was as an engineer, industrial engineer, but even as I was actually studying my engineering, I was starting to sell pieces of software to my colleagues at university. I studied between Egypt and the United States. I did some semesters in the American University in Cairo and the rest in UCLA. And by the time I mean, I loved the engineering study, but I decided even as an undergrad that I want to actually move to computers. Back then, it wasn't called IT and all that fancy stuff. It was the 90s. It was just called computer science. And I, right before graduating actually from engineering, I established with a friend my first software company. That company has one use to me today is that I use it as an example of different failures, what not to do, because this company in a year and a half has lost spectacularly every penny that was put in it. Although we did build pretty awesome software, but we didn't know one thing about running a business. So we reached a point where the more we sold, the more we lost because we never put into account basic things like customer service, like refunds, like taxes, believe it or not. So that, yeah, that company failed totally. And then I started again, slowly climbing up in a new business. I specialized mainly in the link between business and IT. And 3 years into working, there was the IT bubble, as they call it, in the late 90s, and I was losing money more than I was making. So um, I decided to actually stop working for a while and use this downtime to study. I went to England and I had my master's, actually became two masters before I came back, one as a master's in business and the other in information systems. And since then, my world has been in the link between the IT and business in different capacities. First, I led my consulting firm in Egypt, and through it, we had a few web businesses. Of course, when I look at my websites back in the late 90s, they look like, I mean, something that my kids in fourth grade or fifth grade can do better now, but it did the job and it made us some money. After that, I traveled with my wife to Dubai, and I established a company there, but with the money of some investors. It was a consulting and training firm. Did thankfully very well there. Then we had our twins, and once they were born, we've decided maybe it's time to grow up. So we left Dubai, and we've been settled here in Canada exactly 10 years now. Actually, 10 years, 2 days ago. So, yeah, since I came to Canada, I've actually been employed rather than working alone, basically. I've been working first for the government, for the city of Toronto, and then I moved to the University of Toronto, where I am some kind of an internal consultant. I do different capacities depending on which hat I'm wearing. Sometimes it's helping with business requirements, understanding what the different departments need, and then transferring these requirements to IT departments to be able to actually make these requirements tangible and actual solutions. Right now, my capacity is in business process improvement. and I think it doesn't need explanation. I actually, what I do is help businesses streamline. And when I say businesses here, I mean departments, operations within the university, help them streamline their work and make it more efficient. And also translate that to IT needs. And right now I'm working on a big project where we're replacing a very outdated software with a new one to help all the health and safety and so on. So we're actually buying this software, but I'm responsible for managing the project of implementation and so on. So I've been in both the corporate, government, and the private sector for good 26, 27 years now. And I love teaching. I've always been teaching as a side, if not when running a training business. And I find that the best material I can use to teach, I mean, fellows like you guys, is my mistakes. Because I have probably one of the biggest repositories of mistakes that I can learn from that anybody can know. I've done so many business blunders and failures. I'm kind of grateful for them because I've learned my way. But again, maybe if I were told or I had the ears to hear how to avoid these mistakes, I would have saved some time and money maybe on the way. But here I am, and no complaints. So I guess the best thing is to start sharing some mistakes with you guys. But before that, I would like to ask. I haven't had the chance yet to look at the three proposals that you've put together. I would love to, and I'll probably do that. And if Mariam is okay, I can always send some comments afterwards. But I
Of
want to
course. And
start.
also,
Mhm,
and
go
you
ahead.
might one yet. So there's also a fourth one that from
Okay,
Mark.
very good. I'm looking forward for that one as well. I'll be having the time, of course, to look at all of them. But I want to ask some general questions first. And I'm guessing you guys probably may have already talked about these before putting the proposals, but from my own perspective, I would like to know why. Why? If each of you in a little sentence tell me why you want to do this business. I know what it's going to do. I have three of them, not the fourth, but why did you want to start this business, whether it's real or just for this class? Would like to start.
Okay.
Equal, 1 second.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you hear me like this?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sounds great. So everything is easy. It came into my mind from experience, actually from, I would name it, market demand.
Great.
It came from my friend's market demand. That's why several friends, they've been asking me to help them with their studies, language studies, and then I've gone through this way also here since I moved here in the States, because it was very important to enter the environment, to find friends, start talking with them, and just gain that knowledge. So it just came from my life experience, from niche, and also I've done some research about that. Surprisingly, I found that the translator, Google Translator, is like third or fourth place, like one of like major requests on Google, because sometimes when we want to find something, of course we open Google, and
Yep.
Translator is on the like third or fifth place. I forgot something. So somewhere in the top for search, Google search. That's
Very cool.
interesting actually. And also I read a very interesting article that almost the half of population, like world's population, bilingual. And also I've researched, and it was just again from experience, because I was learning English language for 10 or 12 years. Then I was not using it also almost for 10 years, and then I started using it again here. and I was struggling a lot with pronunciation, with vocabulary, with everything, and only actually my friends, they helped me to overcome this language barrier and start using that language. So
Awesome.
that's why the project came from. First, it came from my life experience, my friend's life experience. Then I did some research about that, and I supported my idea, my statement. Then I did market research. Market doesn't offer similar projects, and that's it. That's why I created it.
That's great. Thank you. Who wants to say next? Yeah.
Can you listen?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to create a store that had unique pieces. Is there an echo?
No.
No, it's good.
That had unique pieces of jewelry and not the basic ones in other stores, as I said in the beginning. So that's the why. Really simple.
It's good. Two more.
Yeah, I actually, the why of my business would be.
Just stop.
Just talk. Oh, well, okay. Yeah, the why of my business was that there is an explosion moment of growth or demand for healthy food, and people are getting more conscious about the choices that it has to be and sustainable and clean. And I also, because of the pandemic, there was an interest in cooking at home and not going out that much. And in online businesses saw a big boost in their sales. So I think it is a really good opportunity to sell a meal kit or with recipes and to make it easier for you to have restaurant grade meals but made at home.
Great. I'm missing Mike.
Well, if you haven't, I don't think you have seen my.
No, I have not.
But basically, it's an idea that me and my best friend come up with. We've been kind of like brainstorming and looking for ideas to start a business. But we do want to kind of mix the creative industry world with the hospitality industry. So it's something that we're planning to do to bring together those two aspects and to like it will serve as a platform for creative individuals and freelancers to kind of share their work and to open possibilities for commissions, contracts, collaborations, and stuff like that. But also help small business owners or newcomers to find more like a less expensive and efficient way to solve their creative necessities for their organizations.
This is amazing. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And I heard many words that I like while the four of you were actually telling us, answering the question. Market research, market demand, needs in people. I wished I heard somebody saying to make a lot of money. But don't we all want that? Here's the thing. If money is the sole purpose of building a business, it's probably going to fail. But if money does not comprise one of the reasons why you want to build a business, or it's not a factor, it also is going to fail. And when I was introducing myself, I told you that I work for the government. I worked for a university now. I worked as a consultant, as a business owner. I also, as a consultant, worked for many NGOs and short-term projects. And what I can conclude is if the dollar sign is not included in your operation, even if you're a non-profit or a government, it's not working well. And I do remember I was having a year-long project with CARE International, an awesome organization. that helps so many communities. But I was struggling with them because they only looked at the impact, which was breathtaking. They helped so many underprivileged people, I mean, in so many ways. But my question is, how do you quantify what you're doing using a dollar sign? And of course, I mean, they were listening to me as if they were listening to the Antichrist. Like, what? Money is exactly what we don't want to talk about here. I told them, no, money is exactly what you want to talk about here, because even for an NGO or a government operation, you need to quantify to know if you're doing well or not. Money doesn't have to be your main objective, but you can't just ignore it. Because even if you're helping poor, if you're doing anything, you need to survive in the first place. To sustain yourself, you need to make sure that you're not losing money. And I'm guessing if you're into the online world or the business world, startup world, it has to be a part of the equation. So you're making business plans. I mean, I really would like to have a better look at all of them, but the money has to add up. This is not what I'm here to talk about, but this is one thing that I'm preaching. Do not neglect the talk about money. Does it add up? Is it going to make a living for you, or will you have to do a side job just to make ends meet and then put only the little crumbs of your time into the project you're working on? Will you be able to actually have a life, or will it be consuming you? All very valid questions, and all, even when I'm listening to myself now, I don't like to hear me saying that, but it is the reality of our world. So today I want to be talking to you about planning the business. Although I do come from the IT world and the online world, I've learned that with all the tools that technology gives us, if we don't really plan well and know what to expect from starting a business, it's going to be hard. And as I shared with you in the beginning, for me, I mean, again, I'm grateful for the all mistakes I've done along the way, but maybe if I could have learned, I could have just avoided some of them at least. So I'm going to share my screen with you and tell me if you can see it. It should be, I'm dragging. Do you see a chart?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is pretty much what I want to share with you. I'll start from quite the end, these two pictures, and then I'll get to them later. So when we lived in Dubai, we went there in 2006 and we left in 2011, almost 6 years. The first apartment we rented in Dubai was very close to this very famous hotel. It's called Burj Al Arab. I'm sure you've seen the pictures in many places. We didn't really see except the top of it. But on New Year's Eve, we could see from like across from the roofs of the buildings in front of us, we could see fireworks. They looked amazing. And I read afterwards that this is like one of the best fireworks you can see. So the next New Year's Eve, I've decided to surprise Sandy, my wife. And I mean, I've been told all my life I'm creative. I thought, okay, let me be very creative. I decided to have us have a New Year's Eve picnic at the beach, that little beach there, right by the hotel, so that we can have a nice picnic at night and see the fireworks. Looked amazing. Prepared the picnic, went to the car, started driving, only to discover that this idea that I thought was mine was actually the most popular idea in the whole town. I remember us being stuck for 2.5 hours in traffic because we approached the beach. Everybody was trying to do it. Finally, we could find the U-turn. We arrived home pretty much around New Year's Eve. Didn't see any fireworks. We had the picnic on the floor in our apartments. Was the idea not creative? Was it? Anybody knows? I mean, I thought it was awesome. But what I lacked was knowledge. I think the idea, at least back then, sounded very nice and creative, and If it worked, would have been great. But if I did a little research, I would have known that I'm not really inventing anything. It's a wheel that has been invented ages ago, and it's a popular idea, and I'm just being isolated to my own thoughts, thinking that I'm the first one to think about it. Anybody knows what I'm trying to say here? Thinking out of the box is amazing, but without knowing what the box really is and where the outsides of the box and the inside of the box are, we're wasting our time and valuable efforts. Creativity is amazing, I believe, and it is what takes you from a point to a great point. But without knowing your environment or the environment you're planning to venture into, doesn't work. And that's why when you guys are talking about market demand, about research, about knowing what's around you, this really for me is what I wanted to reach with you today. I've seen so many ideas that started amazing, but because they haven't really been studied and compared to what is already there and compared to the parallel inventions that can be helping, they just fail. You're doing your job by doing that. So let me go back to my chart and let me start my little presentation. I use mind maps. Please feel free to interrupt me at any point. I won't be seeing hands raised because I'm doing the screen, but you can just interrupt me really. What I want to talk to you about is that put your awesome idea online. My favorite mistakes. So why is it great to go online rather than open a shop in a mall, as 20 years ago pretty much was the only way other than mail order to sell anything? Obvious, right? Super easy. It's cheap. I mean, you can start. I mean, you get a domain name for like $10, and the hosting plan for $20 a year, 30 maybe. If you subscribe to Shopify and these guys, you won't even have to pay anything. App developers are a dime a dozen now. Web design, there are beautiful tools. These two I really like, Canva and Snappa. They take you along, and I mean, you guys are art students. You probably
They
don't
love
need.
Canva here. We were
Oh.
just talking half an hour about Canva last time.
It's awesome, isn't it? It does the whole interface thing for you. Again, if you're selling products, you can start with a simple platform before going with your own website like Shopify, even Amazon. I'm not a fan of Amazon, and there is Etsy, of course, if it's something more artistic. Marketing, well, I mean, you can, the tools that you have for marketing now are endless, especially online. No travel is involved. You don't even need to be a computer expert, but here's the thing. Oh, sorry, not yet. There's also, I mean, you don't need to have 100 branches all over the world to reach the world. When I opened my first online business, that was 1998. I was back in Egypt at this time, and we built a little website called Egyptris. We just leveraged on the fact that everybody all over the world liked the little souvenirs from Egypt, you know, the little statues, the papyrus paper, stuff like that. We sold online. The website is amazingly ugly, but it did its job back then. And we sold to people in France and in Japan and the US. We even shipped very simple shipping using regular. I mean, we didn't really use all these fast shippers back then, but just regular post. We would just wrap little pieces of newspaper, Arabic newspaper, around the things we're selling, sell them to people all over the world. It was as primitive as it gets compared to now. Back then in Egypt, I talked to 100 banks. Nobody understood what I meant, that I want to sell online as a merchant. So I had to actually take a little trip to France to open a merchant account there. It was so primitive. It worked beautifully. Years after, a competitor offered me some money to buy it. I didn't mind because I had no expansion plans whatsoever. I got a nice sum, got me a nice car. But if I actually had a plan, I would have probably been a bit wealthier than now. But that said, I mean, I had some computer expertise, but I didn't need it at all. Back then, the software I used for the website design was called Dreamweaver. There are so many better things now. Reach, Japan. So I don't know why, but the Japanese loved my products. I would wake up in the morning, check my account, and find orders from overnight. Of course, I didn't have an expansion plan, but I could have expanded a lot. I mean, we tried different artifacts. We tried sometimes to sell food. It didn't work, so we jumped into artifacts. We sell, and then papyrus, then souvenirs, then little hats and stuff. It's very easy to experiment, but here's the catch. Why it's not so good also? You know why? For the same reason. That's what I've done. Why it's not so great? Because exactly of these things that I just said why it's great. Because if you can do it, everybody can do it. Long ago, if you needed to open a shop, you needed to have the expertise. If you needed to manage a job, you need to have the expertise. You need a lot of money. So there were many barriers against competition. Now the barrier is gone. Everybody can do it. It's great. It's not so great. 20 years ago or 25 years ago when Jeff Bezos started, he was the only one in the markets. Right now, it is annoying how many people do that. But does that mean it's going to fail? Absolutely not. Many people make lots of money in different ways now. I don't know if as a part of your studies, you actually studied Porter, Michael Porter. Have you?
No.
Okay, this guy is my role
Mike
model.
said yes.
I did the pyramid.
Pyramid. Have you guys talked ever about the 5 forces of
Some people
competitiveness?
did.
Yes.
Yes. I really believe in this model. I know there's a better model now that adds 2 or 3 more threats, but this is it. If you are one of 2 things, am I going too fast?
No.
Good. If you are thinking about starting a business like you guys are now, or you are already in a business and you're trying to fend off competition, these are the forces you need to put in mind. Of course, in the middle of it is rivalry among existing competitors. Are you the only one providing that? Or are you, we'll talk about that more in the next slide. Or is there somebody else doing the same? If somebody else is doing the same, is there enough space in the market? And first of all, where is the market? Sometimes you actually can create an online business to cater to one market. Sometimes you want to spread all over the world. Who is your competitor? What do they do? How much market share they have? Lots of questions. Next is, by the way, this is, I actually put the link to that because I didn't really design that picture. I just got it from the internet. Next is, once you start your business, or if you are a new entrant, what kind of threat is there from a new entrant? If you're a new entrant, that's great for you to know how you can actually kill the existing competition. If you are somebody already in the market, you want to know their tools to fend them off. First of all, internet has, as I just said, removed any barriers to entry. Now it's so easy to start. So that is gone. Economies of scale. I do remember long ago, actually not, I will not use this example. I use a more contemporary example. Has anybody tried to buy a car or a computer or a washing machine or any device recently, like in the last couple of months? If you have, there is nothing in the market. So my wife's car lease is ending now, and we ordered a new car, and the car is not coming, I don't know for how long. I hear on the radio it's the same with even fridges and washing machines. Computers are not there anymore. What's happening? Anybody knows?
Chips, yeah, I heard that.
Yep.
There are problems with its supply chain.
And it's a supply chain, and exactly to be very specific, computer chips. that are used everywhere now. Cars, computers, fridges, everywhere you think of. They're saying even Christmas coming, good luck with gifts, electronic gifts. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. They're saying these chips are produced only in two factories all over the world. What does that mean? Why are all the different companies between Apple, Google, Tesla, Hyundai, Toyota, you name it, are buying from these two factories? Why not build 20 or 30 more factories? It's for economies of scale, because everybody knows that when you give suppliers like a good amount of order and business, they will be able to produce at much lower cost that you will benefit from. And also they can spend more on research, which means they will improve the product. So if they, even though Google and Apple are competitors, they don't mind buying the same chips, although Apple now makes its own. But because they know that it's going to benefit both of them, and then they can be rivals later. Capital requirement, again, business has killed that, and so on. There's also the bargaining power of buyers. When I entered the U of T is pretty humongous. I mean, we have 84,000 undergraduates at any point of time, plus the staff and the graduate students. It's like a city. But then one of the great things about U of T is, as big as it is, we're like small republics. Like, we do not deal with our vendors as one entity. Each little department can buy its own stuff. And while this gives us autonomy to take our own decision, it means we have no power over our suppliers whatsoever, because they know that we're not one. But if we had one procurement entity that takes care of our needs, then it would have been different, right? So there is a bargaining power of buyers, whether the size of the buyer, the demand that you mentioned in your introductions, and so on. Then there is the suppliers. We just mentioned the chips, right? You know what? iPhone is having no problem. They're producing iPhone 13, and you can go to the mall now and buy a couple if you want. Why? Aren't they using chips? First, they are a bit independent in their main processor chip because Apple makes its own now. But the other reason is that even in the other little chips in the phone, Apple pays cash ahead because they want to make sure that the supplier gives them a preferential treatment. All the other buyers from the chip makers are not happy about it, but they cannot afford what Apple can. So suppliers control us as a business. Each of us will have its own, their own supplier. If you're selling jewelry, unless you're making everything, and even if you're still not independent of suppliers, even if you're making your own stuff, you still need material and so on. Now, my favorite is the threat of substitute product. It's a double-edged weapon. If you're in the business, you have to always be on your toes because somebody can get a product that kills you. And I'm not saying a different brand, but a totally different product. I'm going to give you an example, age old, but it's still a golden one. But if you're outside the market, this is actually your weapon. Find something not to compete with what is in the market, but rather than to kill it by shifting the customer demand to something else. I don't know if any of you guys, maybe you've seen it with your parents or something. Do you guys remember the little buzzers, the pagers?
Yes, of course I do.
Okay, these were the thing. I mean, I was in university back then, but some of my friends would just carry a pager. I don't know why. And in the middle of class, somebody would ring and they would look at the message and rush out to make a phone call. It was so cool. Motorola was the biggest supplier of pagers in the market. But then Panasonic came in and Sony came in and Ericsson came in, and all of them were producing pagers, and it was kind of a rivalry among existing competitors. But all of a sudden comes the cell phone. Now, the cell phone is not another model of the pager. It's a totally substitute product. I don't think anybody would need to carry a pager and a cell phone. A cell phone does what a pager does, send a message and notify you that somebody needs you, but it does a ton more stuff. Back then, the cell phones were pretty basic, but as basic as they were, you don't need to run to a phone to call after you get a page, and you can send text, you can play games, you can, I mean, you can even have an alarm clock. That's how it started before being a smartphone. But as simple as cell phones were back then, they did the job. They killed the pager. Motorola plummeted. Plummeted. I mean, I was young, but I was interested in the stock market, and it was like a free fall. Motorola just people overnight, and they couldn't have really thought about that. How could they? Huh? But nobody wanted to invest in Motorola anymore. Nobody wanted to buy pagers. All the inventory they had was sold. I mean, they could just capture a little sector, which is the healthcare sector, and kind of started providing free pagers to doctors as long as they kind of hook up to their plans. They somehow survived, but they were killed. That's a substitute product. It's not a better product. It's a different product that makes your product not even important. So, my mistakes. I told you about the first one. I always thought you have to be creative and think outside the box. Well, I already gave you an example, right? Wait. I think I'm not doing it right. Oh, sorry. Okay. Just go to my mistakes. Oh, I'm right. I'm right. Sorry. Okay. I love using this thing, but then it's a bit confusing sometimes. Yeah. You do not have to think about outside the box. It's great, and it is eventually your goal to provide something that wasn't there in one of many terms we're going to discuss, but it's not that simple. You need to understand your environment. You need to spend time and effort and even sometimes money to study the market. The good news is there are so many tools now. Some of them are paid, some of them are free, but all of them are affordable almost, that can help you understand the battle you're entering. As I told you, you don't have to start from scratch. What you're trying to find out, whether not just a new idea, but your true niche. First, a creative idea. Could be a creative take on an existing idea. What does that mean? Anybody? How would I make a creative take on an existing idea?
Maybe like looking for ways to improve a product or an idea itself.
Improve the product, it's one way. Yes, what else? So creative idea, it's yours. Creative take is pretty much steal somebody else's idea, but not steal it as much as spin it and provide something better. Yes, go ahead, please. Somebody was going to say something, or is it me?
Yeah.
But it's
Say it again.
so sell it in a different way.
Yes. So the way it's okay. What else? So a variant of the product.
Probably add an experience to the product.
Absolutely. And sometimes you can actually just do it better. You can just provide it in a better way, right? Because you have better delivery, packaging. I mean, one of the projects, and I'm a fan of this, is the meals, the meal kits, and the I mean, the what do you call it? Sorry, the meal.
She stepped up, but it's a meal kit.
Yeah. So meal kits, it caters to an existing need for sure, and here in my hometown in Toronto, there are probably a dozen, but there's always space for better meals. For example, right now, There, I mean, one of my friends is working on kids meals for school. Kids meals have many attributes that, I mean, like I mean, most schools here don't allow any allergens in like nuts and shellfish and stuff. Also, they need to be cheap. They need to be healthy, very healthy. They need to be delivered once a week only. I like this idea, and I'm really thinking if they plan it well, it's going to be an awesome idea. I know waking up in the morning to prepare the kids' lunch before school is not really our favorite morning activity. Pricing model. I can name one that I love, which is subscription. Subscription didn't pretty much exist before Netflix, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I'm wrong, but now you find subscription to cars, subscription to movies, subscription to meals. I actually subscribe to my razors now, my shaving razors, Harry's. I subscribe and they send me. Our printer at home, we pay a monthly subscription with HP and they just send us, and it kind of monitors the ink level and sends us whenever we're down on ink. It's crazy. So it's, I mean, is it a new idea? No, everybody has sold razors and ink as far as I remember, but it's a different way. Packaging it, responding to the current needs of packaging, whether it's in the volume that you sell with, like the way Costco does it, or whether is it in the actual type of packaging. Environment is big now, and talk about the environment is big. Providing simple, whether multiple use packaging or degradable, biodegradable packaging usually works. Entering new markets is one of my favorite creative ideas. Selling cell phones for seniors. This is a totally different market segment, but with specific features to help seniors whether use cell phones easily or find the buttons easily or having shortcuts to emergency. That's a new market sector for an existing product that is, as far as everybody knows, is already saturated. A new quality level. I think many of us can relate to that. There's something in the market forever, but then somebody else provides something with, listen to this one, much better or much cheaper and lower quality. Believe it or not, there are markets even for lower products, lower quality products. I was shocked when I started reading about that myself, but it's true. Sometimes, I'll give you an example, batteries. So when my kids were younger, they have many toys and all toys need batteries. And if I buy the batteries the way I buy them from the supermarket, they use it once or twice each toy and then let it sit on their shelves forever. Next time they use it, the battery is already down and I paid so many dollars for each battery. No, I don't want that. I did a little research and I found this shop that sells extremely low quality batteries that are like 1/10 of the price of the regular Energizer or Duracell batteries. They work perfectly for a day or two and then they die. But guess what? A day or two is the attention span of 4-year-old kids. So it worked perfect for me. I was looking for a low quality, cheap product here. Sometimes people focus on higher quality when it's not needed. My favorite example on low quality that is needed is actually personal. I love coffee, but I hate hot coffee. I like my coffee to be lukewarm. So I drive in the morning when I used to go to work. I drive in the morning and I would like to start sipping my coffee from my travel mug while I drive. But you know what? All the mugs, the travel mugs in the market are like double walled, thermal proof, and in the middle of my 1 hour drive, I try to take a sip. It usually gives me a second-degree burn. I don't want that. I want a low quality mug that does not keep the heat. I do remember going to many shops asking, do you guys have like a bad mug? And like, no, we don't sell bad stuff. I want a bad one. I ended up winning one of these plastic cups that is my favorite now because it actually loses the heat. Low quality. I want low quality. Sometimes it's because it serves my purposes and sometimes because I don't want to pay much for it. And of course, new quality level is always no. Who knows what this is? Yeah.
Wallet?
It's a metal wallet that you can put your cards in it, and it's quite slim and doesn't take a lot of pocket space, and it also bans, stops any like nobody can scan the cards inside the wallet and steal your credit card information. The company that started this like 10 years ago, it's called Wallon. I actually own the blue one. This is a 60 euro wallet that I got for my birthday 6 or 7 years ago. I still have it. It's made of tungsten. I mean, you can definitely buy a wallet for much less than that, especially that it's not really a brand name. But even, I mean, it's connected with rubber bands. Whenever they cut, the company still sends me free bands 6 years in. This was a very expensive but very good quality that I'm keeping, and I'm not planning to throw anytime soon. They introduced a superior quality level to something that was already in the market. Their creativity came from the quality level. Or maybe you don't need to be creative at all. Maybe you can just start another player as another player. If the market is still hungry for your service or for your product, it's not really bad to be a me too. If you've studied it well, if there's a spot for you, it's fine. If there is a need, if there is a need for the food service because the current players cannot really provide for the demand, that's your spot. If there's a need in a new market that doesn't exist yet, that's your spot. It is fine. It's all about when and how, about marketing as well. Marketing is the spine of online businesses, and I would say any startup now. That was one of the reasons I failed in the beginning, is I didn't really put much thought into marketing. I thought if I like my product, if I put it online, people will find it. Maybe back then the marketing tools were not as sophisticated as now, but there were tools. Marketing is your best bet at a good investment. So find a good supplier for stuff. I'm starting a little business now, and because I'm not alone in it, I'm not really gonna share the details, but I'm getting our stuff from halfway across the globe. And this is my only competitive advantage, but I'm actually really betting on it because everybody in our side of the globe pays a lot for the same thing that I can get for pennies. Now, once you get that thing, it stays. Let me just see what Mariam has just sent me. Sorry, guys. Oh, thank you. I got that. So get your customer and get creative on how to keep your customer. All these competitions and points and things, I mean, to gain a new customer through marketing and selling is awesome. But the real hard and at the same time really, really beneficial game is to keep that customer. To whether make it very hard for this customer to leave you or to actually make the customer not want to leave you in the first place. By pampering your customer, by putting costs in, I mean, for example, my razors with Harry's. There are a couple more like Harry's now, but do I want to start from the beginning and get a new kit and everything? No, I'll just stick with mine. Sometimes you can play very nicely into keeping your customer, whether force the customer to think twice before leaving you or make your customer love you. Another mistake that I thought I just shared with you now is I'll just put it online. No, do not just put it online. Market it. Maybe 20 years ago when I started my EG3's business, by the way, I own the domain name now, but I mean, because my competitor who bought it to kill it really. So after a few years, I just bought the domain name, but I'm not allowed to use it anymore. But it's kind of nostalgia for me to keep it. 20 years ago, when the competition was low, it was easy. Now you need to put a lot of time and effort. When I say that, I'm not trying to put you off. On the contrary, I'm encouraging you to do your due diligence, good planning, utilize what the market has to offer, as many as the businesses that are there now to help you set up that sell businesses. There are so many other businesses like Canva we just talked about that can help you on your way to establish yours. Invest in market research, which apparently you guys already know about. I'm very happy to hear this. Find your best marketing vehicle. Sometimes just tap into what is there, whether it's social media or whether it is email blasts or whether it is whatever. And sometimes go wild. And I do remember when I was in Dubai, there was this IT convention that happens every year. It's called GITEX. And I, back then, as a side business, started selling the Swiss Army gear, computer bags. I took their franchise and started selling them in Dubai. So I told Swiss Army, listen, guys, GITEX is coming. This is where the IT people, are all there. Let's make a booth for Swiss Army computer bags and stuff. Their answer was very cool. No, we don't even go to computer markets. We sell at apparel and clothing stores. I was like, wait, that's a computer bag. They said, yeah, but people who buy expensive computer bags buy them for the fashion, not for the utility. And we sell fashion. So that was way beyond me, but I'm guessing it's not way beyond people at this day and age, especially smart people studying art like you guys do. So, and I mean, business and art. So for me, that was news. Go wild. Think of better places where you can exclusively sell without your competitors and exclusively show your business to others. Now comes the bad part. Selling is not the end of your story. Selling is actually the beginning. As I said, there is customer retention, but there is also returns. If you're selling merchandise, refunds if you're not. I do remember, as I told you, the more I sold, the more I ended up losing money because I never set aside some budget for returns. This is something that research works for. You need to understand the rates and keep an eye on how much returns are happening. Sometimes your product is awesome, but people return stuff. Don't we all sometimes return? We change our minds, and that's the best scenario. Some people buy to use and return. You need to be ready. You need to be generous, but that's my lesson. You need to be firm. What I mean here is, yes, you can't be very frugal about returning stuff. People paid you money and they deserve the best service. But if you feel somebody is using your service or business in not a very good way, whether they're just using your stuff and then returning to get the money, or whether they're doing anything that smells bad, let's put it this way, well, return their stuff, but maybe you can decide not to sell to them again. So this needs to be planned for. I've seen even banks sometimes accepting customer complaints, but then banning them. Because you cannot just be that kind of business that just returns. Amazon accepts all kinds of returns, but they don't really accept all kinds of returns. They actually rate you as a buyer after some time and make it harder for you to keep your Prime sometimes, the Amazon Prime. They use, I mean, they're rich enough to use artificial intelligence to identify malicious behaviors, but for us, we can just use our sense and our open eyes and due diligence. If you're going to open an online store 24/7, you'd better reply 24/7. I mean, some little stores on Etsy and so on specify their time zone and their opening hours, but the more people go digital, the more impatient they are. So maybe you don't have to be 24/7 to sell apparel, but the closest you can be to that. Expand your business hours, And as a rule, I've learned whether you are going to actually do it online or just make any kind of startup, you need to be patient and you need to just forget a bit about your humane hours. Maybe get help if you need to, maybe invest in help. The good news is there are also virtual assistants now that can help you with that. That's a misconception I already talked about. You need to understand why people would go to you. I think already consumed that point. Two lessons I've learned. First lesson is you're not a big time CEO yet. I keep all my business cards. I mean, I have 26 or 27 years worth of business cards in different capacities now. It's funny. My first ever business had the fanciest title. I was president and the company had me. But that's not what I'm going to talk about there. You are everything in your business, even if you have help. You need to learn self-discipline. You need to be humble. You need to make sure that you always remember that the business owes you for its growth. And without your own self-discipline, especially when it comes to time, you're not going to make it. And even when you become big, you have to have this discipline, but especially at the beginning. Somebody saying something? No. You need to always remember this. Be small, act small, and it will pay off. My second lesson, funny enough, is the same, but in a different thing. You're not the big time CEO yet means when you start the business, you need to actually train yourself to be poor a bit. Even if it gets you money, you need to be patient about using this money, invest this money in the business as much as you can. Sometimes maybe you can start as a side business or have a side business just to cover for your need without sucking all the profit and the returns out of your business, because businesses have to grow, otherwise they will fall. You need to be flexible when it comes to your market proposition and what products you're proposing to the market or services. The great thing about online businesses, you can really change very quickly. Even if sometimes it doesn't really look nice if you change what your store sells online, here's the good news. You can always make another store. Nobody will know it's you. Keep your eyes and ears open for the competitors that we talked about in Porter. Keep your eyes open. New developments, new things you can do to become bigger and more profitable and expand your market, but also open to competition and new variables that can affect positively or negatively what you do. Suppliers, buyers, market, technologies, new tools in the business, new tools to set up an online business, payment methods, and so on. Now, another thing that I took for granted for a long time, but I don't anymore, is it's never too safe to be online. That's an investment, at least as much as the hosting costs you. You need to invest in security. The good news is website hosting companies provide that for a fee. I can't.
On that yesterday, last week, about website security, that was exactly our lesson.
I hardly heard you, but I think what you said, correct me, is what is the website and how it is provided. Is that what you're saying? Can you repeat?
So I said that was our lesson, online lesson last week.
Perfect.
Yeah, that was exactly our lesson, the website security. But you said that hosting websites, they provide website security. I didn't know that.
So I have most of my domains on GoDaddy and Google, and they provide you as a extra product enhanced security. You want that for many reasons. One, you want to protect your whole shop or business, but second, to protect your domain name against, if you forget to renew it, it's up for grabs. I'm not sure of the country, but I think it was Argentina, where the main government website got sold to somebody else just because they forgot the domain name. I mean, they forgot to renew it, and it was up for grabs. App security for phones, the same. I cannot emphasize enough on how important secure payment, but I'm guessing you talked about that last week. Communication, emailing, I mean, you want to make sure to start with that your email that you send to your client doesn't land in the junk folder because it's not secure enough or it looks like spam. And the other side is you don't want to receive any of these.
We didn't really talk about secure payment details. We just mentioned it.
Okay, so when it comes to online payments, it's it's really the good and the bad. There is no middle way there. There are very good providers of secure payment, and there are people who make makeshift security. It's makeshift payments. You can pretty much set up a MasterCard account and the Visa account and so on. But here is the thing. I personally believe, against my personal beliefs, but in business it's a bit different, that when you actually join a big provider of secure payments, because they have a lot of customers and clients and a lot of turnover and revenue, they have what it takes to invest heavily in security. So instead of going to the small players, I'm sorry, let's go to the big players for now until technology is better, and then we can keep our eyes open, just like everything else in your business, for better ones. But go for the more expensive, secure, very well reviewed, and very well certified payment providers. I'm talking PayPal is pretty much all right. Some people have started accepting Bitcoin. I'm going to refrain from commenting on this one because I'm as ignorant in Bitcoin as I'm ignorant probably in Japanese language, but it's totally new. New in payment is not cool. Let somebody else take the risk first. I'm talking very conservatively here. Secure payment, to have a creative marketing or service or product proposition is great. Payment, I'm as a client and you as a provider, you want to go to somebody everybody trusts. So let's not take big adventures when it comes to payment. I'd be happy to talk more about security if you want. Communication, I already mentioned. Privacy is a big one. I don't know how many of you got an email from Google or from Apple, depending on the provider, saying that some of your online accounts have been compromised. I get that a lot. I work heavily online, and every now and then, last week, my kids' ice skating class, you register online, and then I got an email from Google saying, by the way, that server there has been compromised and your email and password and credit card information have been exposed. Great, now I have to change all that, especially the credit card. It's a pain. Invest in privacy. Now, there are easy and sure ways to ensure and to assure your clients that your website is not going to be compromised, or at least, no, let me take that back. Everything can be compromised, but sometimes it's more of how much a hacker would put of money and time into trying to get the data versus what the benefit they will get. So it's really an equation. But going for good protection, which again is provided through your host and the hosting company, is very important to assure your clients, and also not to bear any legal liability. You don't want to find yourself responsible for the breach of 500,000 clients' information, right? So I made it a bit bleak and dark, haven't I? No. Is it worth it? Absolutely. After all these mistakes I talked about, I wanted to share one thing. Absolutely worth it, not just for the money I just mentioned, but also because the feeling that you've created something from scratch, that you nurtured it, you make it grow. Even if your end result is to sell it, fine, but you have actually created something from the absolute scratch. Is I don't know if there's anything like it. And the money. This was my presentation, and I'm ready to take any questions if you guys have any.
First of all, thank you.
Pleasure.
You guys can, even if you can ask questions or you can just say your feedback, your thoughts, stuff like that.
I just wanted to get an advice about best marketing tools. Because you know that marketing is a crucial part of any business. Actually, it's an engine of business marketing.
Yes.
Compared it with tools many years ago, and now they're more sophisticated marketing tools. So which are the best?
Okay. To answer this question, I'll go one step back and say that as important as marketing is, a business plan has to come first, because the business plan will identify something that's very important other than your service or product proposition. It will also identify your target audience. And knowing your target market and audience, at least, I mean, this can evolve by time, of course. I mean, what you've decided is your audience today. I mean, we all know that Facebook started to market, I mean, for the campus, the Harvard campus only, and then it mushroomed as we see it now. But let's be realistic. We're talking about today. You're starting your business plan. Know your audience, know your product, and then only then we can talk about the tools. So what are the tools? There are, I would say, several families of tools when it comes to marketing. One is to help you know who to target. These tools, I don't have any off the top of my head. I just shared my email address on the chat now. And if you guys okay, you can always send me emails and I can send you tools all the way. But the first is to understand your best vehicle. It's like market analysis tools. Understand the age groups you want to talk to. You want the education groups, the gender, you name it. So many, and of course, geographical groups. Once you pinpoint your target initial market, then it will be much easier to think of tools. If you're talking to seniors, for example, I don't think identifying Instagram as your main marketing tool makes a lot of sense, unless they're really cool seniors, but we're talking about general population. If we're talking to children, well, maybe we need to talk to their parents. My kids I mean, we were very, very strict about when they started using electronics, but now they do, and they get ads all the time. So some of the ads target them, but do they have the spending power? They do not have the spending power, but they have the nagging power. They can come with the ad to us, oh, I've seen this amazing Nerf gun, I want to buy it. If they advertise a Nerf gun to me, let's not use Nerf guns because I love Nerf guns, but I mean, let's assume I don't as a grown-up. I will not really look much into it, but if they identify it to my son, the son will come with the ad with their own tablet to show me this new product. So now they targeted the right one. So as I said, first identifying the best vehicle for your audience is the first layer of choosing your marketing tool. Next is, let's face it, how much you have. Or how much are you willing to spend? Spending big on marketing is not always the answer, but knowing your limits is important. When we first established the company in Dubai, we put a half-page big banner on the most circulated, it's called Gulf News. It's the most circulated English newspaper there. And I remember all of us, 38 of us in the office, sat beside our phones ready from early morning to receive calls. We received one call from another newspaper wondering if we want to advertise there. Nobody else. What we've learned later is, although we spend big money on advertising, it was for the wrong audience. Businesses do not find their providers through the newspapers. Businesses go to conventions, go to fairs, get direct sales, many other ways, but not that. Okay, so but again, knowing the budget was important. Third, as I just used this example, knowing the best tool for your audience and your budget. You can start simple and small if you have a little budget, but then you should also expect small, which is fine, by the way. You don't always have to aim big at the beginning. Maybe start small as a test balloon, you know? Like, for example, you just want to see the response and then decide if you want to actually pursue this tool or something else. When we started EG3 ages ago, my biggest one of my biggest challenges was how to ship. Shipping took forever because we couldn't afford FedEx and UPS for especially that our items were quite cheap. So what we did is we bought from the wholesale market very cheap China cups. Nice looking, but extremely cheap. We packaged them in the boxes that we intended to send to our clients later when orders started. We used the crumbled Arabic newspapers as padding, and we went to the yellow pages of so many different countries and got 20 to 30 names from these companies, from these countries, and we sent random packages to people. It was safer than before 9/11, but with a little note inside that we are testing the shipping method and we would like to know if it are. I mean, we provided an email. Please send us back when and what is. I mean, when you've received this package, and in what state was the China cup? Was it in one piece or shattered? So people started responding. It was actually a very accidental marketing tool because so many people loved it, loved the idea. And we also, of course, in the printout, we also included our website and everything. People start thanking us. I'm not sure this will work today with all the things happening, but back then it worked. People start, I mean, 90% of the packages arrived within 3 weeks, which for a souvenir and back then was fine, and also in a good state. So we landed this as our shipping, but also we landed this as our ever-going marketing technique. We kept sending, instead of China cups, we started sending samples to people. It was way cheaper back then than to advertise in places because online was not really big, so you had to advertise in magazines and stuff, and that was expensive. We used the money to actually reach people with our product, and it worked. It really worked. So I'm not a marketing person, but I know some tools and I'm willing to share. I'll have to just dig in my papers and find some. So if anybody is interested, with Mariam's permission, please send to my email and I can respond to you with some of these. Thank you. Any other question?
I don't have a question, but I have some feedback and comment. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your journey. I think it's amazing, and I also believe on learning from our past experiences or mistake. I think that's definitely one of the best ways to learn, and I'm pretty sure that in the future we will come back to this class and remember some of.
Thank you so much.
I have a quick question. What's like a payment provider that you recommend for a small online business?
Okay, so it depends on what you sell and how you sell it. Meaning, if you're going to join a marketplace, let's say Amazon or Shopify, you don't even need to worry about that. I mean, they accept your own payments. It's best if you do that. I personally love PayPal because even as a client, I feel good about not having to provide my credit card information every time. Excuse me, I make a purchase. I know there are other things like PayPal now, but PayPal is by far the biggest. Again, I love big when it comes to IT because this means that so many other clients are involved, so they'd better do their homework in providing security. So, I mean, we're starting all of us small businesses, and it's always great to encourage small businesses, sure. But economies of scale helps, especially when it comes to anything that has to do with technology and security. Some banks provide secure payment merchant accounts, but I believe this is really outdated because, come on, like let's just go global, right? I love PayPal. I mean, I'm sure there are 100 other good solutions, but PayPal never failed me whether to collect or to pay. And they also give you some kind of assurance and protection in case of being like maliciously attacked. They can actually help you get your money back. So I would go for it for sure. If you're not using Etsy, Shopify, all these guys already have their engines embedded, which saves you. They take a commission. That's fine. Let them take the commission. Maybe later when you grow, you can decide to be independent, but let them take the commission. One of the best models, I'm sorry, I'm shifting from, I don't know if that was a good answer to your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. But I want to shift to something when it comes to marketplaces. One of the best models that I see these days, whether you're selling a service or you're selling a product, I mean, even the translation works there. You can be a part of a community. That community can be a marketplace like Shopify or something, or even in Facebook or any social media. You can put your main thing there. But the best model I've seen is while you do that, also create your own website and app. I mean, not app, website and mobile website. They go together now. And link it to that place. It's nice, first of all, to secure a good domain name early on, because this is kind of your brand now. This also would be associated with your own email. Like my personal email is still, I mean, I have one, it's Pierre@pierrehanna.com since my consulting office. I keep it because I don't know if I'm going to use it again. Secure your domain name now. Build a nice website connected to these marketplaces so people can buy through the marketplace and save you the hassle of setting up your own personal e-commerce site, but meanwhile, have your own identity as well. Any other question?
No, I don't have a question, but I thank you so much for the presentation. I especially like when you said like the number one thing is well, not the number one thing, but that is important to consider the financial aspect, because sometimes you can have an idea, be all idealistic, and then it can sound creative, but you have to see if it's really.
I'm trying, and I think I am, but if you can get closer.
Yes, right. Okay.
Yeah.
And I like the when you say that part. Like sometimes you have that business idea in your mind that sounds super creative and fun, but you have to see if it really will work in the real world. If it's an idea, people are making money. Because if not, it's a waste of time. You're gonna invest your own money. You're gonna fail, and then that sometimes the creative people thinks much about the idea, but doesn't think about the plan to actually do it.
I mean, totally. I mean, we're humans, right? The reason we are different than any other species on this planet is that we don't start from scratch all the time, right? We build upon everybody else's knowledge. So that applies to business as well. And I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not, but if you come up with an idea and then discover that somebody else has made it before you to that idea, don't get so discouraged. It's fine. It is fine. Sometimes there's space for you, or use this as I mean, watch them, see how they're doing, and start developing a better idea. It's fine. But of course, if you come up with an amazing idea of your own, that's always amazing. That's always great. But it's not the only way to survive in business.
Original when everything's been done.
It's kind of true. I mean, and just start, because once you start, once you're in the grind and you're actually succeeding or failing or waiting, you're there, you're inside the business. You will find better ideas as you go. Sometimes your first idea is not very creative, but your second or the third will be. You just need to be there. Any other comments?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. So I'll be very happy to look at the business proposals, and Yeah, I mean,
I also sent you Mike's one on
I just got it. Yeah.
Facebook.
Looks very good.
Maybe if you don't mind, just wait a minute. We can take a photo of the screen.
Yes,
That's a memory.
That's nice.
So maybe I'll take for you guys first, and then I'll do a selfie.
A
or something.
selfie.
Yeah, you can't believe that there are some people still in the same room, right?
No, I mean, we're getting there. Maybe next year. Maybe.
Let me make a selfie. All right.
I want to wish you all best of luck, whether in your studies or even in developing these ideas into reality. Best of luck.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Pierre.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
That
you.
was amazing. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mario.
Thank you. Have a great.
You too. All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
It was very insightful.